All right, welcome, Blades and Blasters live. We really are live, not just pretend live. So I have with me Xeipher, the most excellent Xeipher, to
Cheers.
talk some B&B tonight. And I
Indeed,
believe
we are.
Xeipher's drinking an old fashioned. He's fancy.
I've had a few old fashions before this, so
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Nice.
So it's gonna be a very smooth video, I guess.
Very smooth. Okay, well, we'll find out.
Yeah.
So, last couple months, I guess it's been several months since we've done one of these, or I've done one of these. It's been really long since you and I talked.
Yeah. I think at least 3-4 months.
Yeah, 3 or 4 months probably. I did one with Ghost too. We did one with Bo, but it's kind of the video's lost to the ether. Not sure what happened. He refused to do Google Hangouts, so.
Bo is not photogenic.
Nah.
Well,
You're
we
the
just
boss.
he's the boss. While we just have what do you call that? Hot brownie fudge swirl.
Exactly. We have one viewer. That's nice. Okay. So let's start getting the crux of things here. So this last month we've finished at least 2 campaigns that I'm aware of. I don't know if you know of anything else.
Nope, 2 campaigns, I believe. That's correct.
Trek.
And a mini series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, four sessions of Call of Cthulhu amidst the ancient trees. So let's just talk about that for a second. You were in that game. So I don't know if you're aware, but that game was literally like a 15-page adventure out of the back of the core book of 7th edition Call of Cthulhu, and it took four sessions.
4 3-hour sessions, yes, indeed. And the way the players played, the GM ran it. The GM, I'm pretty sure you all who've been watching BNB's channel know Doc. He ran the game. He was very extremely open to RP. The RP and the decisions led us down a path where there was almost no combat. And it was
There
phenomenal.
was none, wasn't there? There was
pretty much. I mean, there was maybe about a half an hour, and it wasn't really combat. It was just we getting the drop on someone, just because the way we rolled, we RP'd, and that was about it. But yeah, I think I personally, that was my first time playing Call of Cthulhu. I really liked it, even though I have personal issues with D100 systems. I think I liked it because we didn't have combat as much, so there was lesser of a chance of whiffing. And my character who was playing in the game was shit scared, so it actually helped whenever I rolled bad. It helped me with my RP. So a fun system, fun game. And I think it just proves that, I mean, I know Tet and me differ on this sometimes, that even if you take a pre-built what do you call that, a game or a storyline, if the GM is adept enough, he can kind of change it as things go along. It's not wrong starting from something that's already written by somebody else, and then adding your own flavor or twist to it, which I think that Doc did a pretty good job of it. Actually, we all enjoyed it a lot. And a lot of our new players actually shine in that game. The dude, Matihi, Demi, and myself, I think we consider ourselves old people on the server. So
yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out. I've been doing some method of role playing for a long time, and I've never run a pre-written adventure until the end of next month.
Yes.
So I will abandon all hope. Abandon all hope, for those who don't know, is an extremely small game by a company called RPG Objects. The guy also does Darwin's World. I think Darwin's World is a post-apocalyptic game of some sort. I'm not real familiar with it. But the gist of the game is that you're convicts put on this massive ship with millions of people on it and shipped out to space. Basically, you're either really convicts, like you're murderers, rapists, blah blah blah, or you're political, like you're like if Overlord Trump sent Democrats to form the monolith of Gehenna, that would be
Yes.
it, right?
Dissidents or anarchists,
Yes.
whichever group you fall under.
Yeah. So, and basically, you just are you at some point, like years later, after they get sent away, they go through some sort of wormhole rift in space, and it leads to quote unquote hell. And which is essentially there's these demons and infected. So not only do you have to keep yourself being killed by other insane convicts, but you also try not to get killed by these demons too. And there's robots on the ship that run the ship that can kill you too.
I guess we need to build backup characters and backup of backup characters.
Oh, I would say, so
at least one.
So here's kind of the thing, right? I don't want to give anything away, and I'm not going to, but your gauges are very important. So there's 3 gauges in the game, and those are basically limits. So they're insanity, despair, and guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And if anytime those hit 10, it summons a demon. So the demon is, I'm building rollable tables for what demon it is. But if it's despair, it has more likely, it depends how far you go over 10. So if you're in a group and you both go over and you both go over 2, that's bad. Right? For instance, that will summon like a more powerful demon. But either way, a demon's coming if you do that. Probably, I think I'd have to look, but I'm pretty sure.
And I'm pretty sure these demons are something is overall bad news. It's not something that you can wave your hands over and I've got a magic wand for this one.
It's a very Cthulhu-esque kind of demon. They're not just like most of them aren't just like attacky. Just they do things like eat you. They do things like poison you. You know that it's more of a Cthulhu kind of demon. So that's the thing, and like you can build up those things very quickly, especially despair. Despair, you see a bunch of dead bodies. Roll despair roll. See if you take despair or not. So there's certain times you take a lot of despair, you can. So if you're having high willpower is good. So you don't actually fail those rolls. Anytime you fail those rolls, you get more despair. And then once you get to 10, that's when you start having manifestations.
And I think that's interesting, as in playing games, role playing where the odds are stacked against the players. It's not very often you come across those systems, and being able to play them with a mature group and a mature GM, I believe that's something to look forward to, because it's not easy, right? Because as a player, sometimes you might get away from it feeling that you have lost a game, even though when you play role-playing games, it's not really a game, right? It's not like you're playing Settlers of Catan or
you're not trying to win.
You're not trying to win, you're just trying to play a role. But it's kind of human to want to win always, right? And I think it's I look forward to it, because sometimes you have to suppress that urge to win over the urge to role play, because you don't always win in life, right? It's not all roles are meant to win. So getting that opportunity and learning from it, even if you take out the game aspect and you kind of look at the hobby aspect and growing as a role player, I believe that's something to look forward to. It's not many games, but I'm glad we play those games that push us in that direction.
I have a hard time at that as a GM, to really kind of punish players for not doing some stupidness. So anybody who watched the last Conan session, they basically came into this slaver caravan and they attacked the slave master. And I mean, there was no trickery, not using Doom to bring anybody out. There was like literally 25 minions sitting there, right? That they knew, or 25 tokens looking at them. And they did it, and I was like, okay, next session, I'm gonna lay into you, and I did. But at the end, I was just like, I pulled back. First of all, the session was almost all combat because we started with combat because we stopped and then we started again, and so the whole session, like almost 2 hours, was combat, and I was like, and I could have kept going because it wasn't done, right? They were not done, and so I could have, and I had tons of Doom. They just kept generating Doom over and over and over and over again, and I was generating Doom because I was rolling a lot.
Nice. And
right?
there's no cap on Doom in 2D20 Conan, correct?
No, there's no cap on Doom. There's a cap on momentum.
Yeah, not a cap on Doom.
6. It's 6. I had 12 to 8 Doom at all times, and I only brought in 4 minions. I was using Doom for other things. I was using Doom to power my effects. And I was using Doom for adding extra die, but I wasn't using Doom to bring anybody else in, or I think I would have killed them all. Except Doc. His character's insane. He can parry anything. So
Parry King.
Yeah, he literally is impossible to hit. So I hit him once. With a guy with a mace. And in Conan, maces are pretty brutal. It can stun and knock you down. And he failed. I think he had to roll a maybe an athletics to keep from getting knocked down. He failed. No, I take that back. He has to pay me Doom to stay standing for every effect I rolled.
Ooh.
So I only rolled one effect, and so he had to give me 2 Doom, one for each of those, for stun and knockdown. So he gave me 2 Doom that way.
Wow.
And did get knocked down.
And that affects the rest of the party, because even though you stand up, that doesn't mean the Doom can be always used against your party, not necessarily you, right? Well, actually, that brings me to the next question. We just finished Trek, which was a 2D20 system by Modiphius Entertainment. You're kind of deep into Conan, which is 2D20 system by Modiphius Entertainment. What do you personally think about a 2D20 system, the way Modiphius has built it?
I really like it. There are some people, and I kind of see their point, think that it can cause a game to turn into kind of more like a tactical combat type of thing. In combat, it certainly does. It's not a rules light system as far as combat goes.
Indeed,
it is not, right? I mean, that's not what it is. But you just have to think that most of the time, most systems, if you're rolling to hit and dodge them, it's still the same shit. It might just take less time, but it might be less interesting too.
Sure. I the way my experience, and I guess to the viewers who are watching, I was the GM on Trek while Tet was the GM on Conan. As a GM, also the whole Doom concept or threat concept in Trek, it gives you a lot of tools that you can play with, right? And I feel for the first time that as a GM, I can say, hey, I've shown you a token on Roll20 which shows you how much threat or Doom you have. You are generating it. I'm going to use it, but now I have a basis for using it, right? I have a basis for saying, I'm going to do this to you right now. And not out of thin air. It's just you've generated threat or Doom. And while it's a mechanic, it just, roleplay wise, it just means you've been fucking up in real life, in game, right? There's that. I also like the fact that sometimes some systems punish you for rolling badly. Now, rolling is a matter of adding some amount of luck to it, right? But always penalizing a player for rolling badly, I feel that's unfair. An example, if viewers have been watching, is Thor, right? You will have noticed in Thor, there's one character, Aglaron, who always ends up rolling bad. But Aglaron is a wood elf. Technically, he, like lore wise, he can hit anything, right? He's rolling 4d6, right? But the fact that that system doesn't have a way to say, I pass, I'm going to hit my target, and here's something I can give you for being able to hit it. Maybe, and roleplay wise, maybe I had to jump at an awkward angle. Maybe I shot the arrow, and then in response, I actually lost my balance to get that arrow to hit home, right? Some systems don't have that, but the 2d20 system actually has a mechanic to say, I'm going to pay you something to succeed at this that you can then use against me later on, right? Which I think is pretty powerful, right? And
Yeah.
with a mature group of a GM and players, um, it builds up, right? You know you're giving something up now to succeed, but later it can come back to bite you in the ass, which is pretty awesome about the 2d20 system, I feel.
And also, like Modiphius basically also says, is like Doom, and particularly Doom, is kind of the feeling. It's like you're going through the session. The Doom is creeping. It's coming to a climax, right? And
Yeah,
then all of a sudden you have all this Doom, and it's like, oh shit, the shit just hit the fan, right?
exactly. Yes. Which kind of builds up like a movie kind of scene, which is what they're going for, which is kind of what Conan is, which kind of what Trek is, right? And I think that's the gist of what we're trying to push at BNB is try these different systems to see their strengths and weaknesses, right? And that's one strength of the 2d20 system. The weakness is, yes, it can get very mechanical, very tactical, out of combat as well. For example, Trek, right? Trek, not so much combat, because the lore of Trek is not really combat, but it can become very, very involved and technical and mechanical when you're actually role playing out scenes where you're trying to like fix a computer system, fix a drive engine, fix your what do you call that, your what do you call those handheld tricorders, right? And the challenge I feel sometimes in that scenarios is, when do you roll the dice? Do you roll it first and then role play, or do you role play and then you roll the dice, right?
I'm a proponent of rolling the dice first,
Mm-hmm.
and
And
and that and that way you can kind of, okay, I just get this, and this is, I used to not be this way.
mm-hmm.
I used to be like, okay, what are you trying to do, and then you can, but it's just kind of like, it's just easier for me to roll the dice first, see if I succeed or fail. I mean, I tell it like in an out of character context what I'm trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
and then I roll the dice, and then I can describe how I failed, right?
Correct.
The whole process, I don't have to break it up into two different things, right?
Indeed. And I feel like personally, I think I've learned from that process, because as a new role player myself, a failure of the roll dice would actually be like, fuck. Okay, fine. Oh yeah, I failed. Right. On one hand, yes, it's understandable that you failed and you're kind of dejected by the role that you just had. But really speaking, if you think about it, there are 5 or 4 or 3 other people at the table with you, right? And by you just saying that, I failed my role, okay, let's move on, right? It kind of pulls them out of the immersion. um Personally, for me as a BNB member, a lot of my GMs and players I've played with have been like, hey, can you just expand on your combat roles even if you failed? Personally, for me, and Tet knows this, I'm not a big fan of combat, but I realize it's an important aspect of the role playing game. And the reason I'm not a big fan of it is because many a time you just whiff, right? And after a time you're like, okay, how do I explain this whiff eloquently again and again and again, right? Um, but while it's frustrating for you, I sometimes feel that it is necessary, because the rest of the people might be playing really well, they might be rolling really well, and they are immersed. And you just saying, I rolled bad, let's move on, it pulls them out, right? So I feel 2d20 systems, while they cannot whiff as such, um, it gives you the opportunity to maybe roll first and then role play it out, even your failures, right? And that's a skill. If you're looking at this as a hobby, that's a skill as well. How do you role play your failures? It's not just the successes that matter, right?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. I guess there's two other 2D20 systems, right? There's
There's
Infinity. Is that it?
yes, Infinity, and I don't know
Mutant
if
Chronicles.
Mutant Chronicles. I don't know if Coriolis. Maybe no. Coriolis is not
It's
Modifius.
not.
Yes,
It is Modifius, but it's not 2D20.
not 2D20. They also have Acton Cthulhu, which I don't know if it is also 2D20 or not.
Octon
Um,
Cthulhu. No, it's D100.
D100. Okay.
Yeah. They have several. I think they do. Modifius actually is a publisher for other companies,
Mhm.
or a reseller or something, because they actually sell Symbol too as well.
Yes, they do. Exactly.
Yeah.
And anybody who's watching, I would like to say this. Modifius, if you buy their print books, I bought the Star Trek one. It is really nice. It
Yeah.
is.
Let
It
me
is.
grab something real quick.
Yeah, let me grab my Star Trek book as well. Just a minute.
Yeah. So everybody's seeing here. So this is the. I think it's the. What do you call it? It is the. It is the deluxe, whatever the deluxe is, of the Star Trek Adventures book. I got this on eBay for really cheap. It's pretty amazing. So, if anybody wants to take a look at this guy,
You have it. You have the Trek one too. Yes.
yep,
Yeah.
I got this very cheap on eBay. Right,
Nice.
so
And
it's got like 3 of those guys. Right?
ooh,
It's pretty
nice.
cool. Yeah.
And I would like to say this is that Modifius, and we're not being paid by Modifius or any of
No,
this.
not at all.
It's just, and there you go, Conan,
Yeah.
right? But their books are well laid out. The content is really fun to read. Trek especially. I know when I first started the Trek campaign, a lot of my new players, not Ted himself, but there's some other players who like, oh, why does character development or character building start at page 101? Like, ugh. But I'm like, you see, the thing is, Trek, for example, has a lot of lore, right? And Modifius spent the time to explain the lore, explain the setting in the first 100 pages, right? Which kind of opens it up to a lot of people who may not be actually aware of Trek. Example, Tet. Tet started watching Trek after playing the Modifius game. So
Yeah.
um,
I finally got to watch an episode today. I was happy. It's been a while. It's been tough.
so yeah, I mean, sometimes it's also fun to pick up games or systems or settings that you have no idea about and learn about them, right? And what better system to learn it in role playing than board games or anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
if you guys are looking for new games, definitely check out Modifius 2D20 systems, Trek, Conan, at least to begin with.
It's funny. It's funny we're talking about this because basically to publish all our videos and stuff, I'm a part of a bunch of Facebook and Google Plus groups, and I'm sure people get annoyed with how much I post our stuff. But so and there was a conversation yesterday, I think, and somebody was asking. Essentially, he's got a YouTube channel too. I think it's called Questwise. So he was asking actually if he was going to do Conan or Star Trek, which should he do? What was the better implementation of 2D20? And I answered what I thought. But what is your thought?
My thought is, I feel Trek, and I feel though I love Trek to death compared to Conan, Trek, you need some knowledge of the system. Conan, even if you're unaware of the Conan lore, the Conan itself, even if you've not watched the movies, you can still come at it from a perspective of playing some sort of
Fantasy game.
fantasy game, right? Not saying it's high fantasy, low fantasy, mid fantasy, but at least you know the setting, right? With Trek, unless you're not being true to the tone or to the lore, it can be difficult. That's not saying the game is not well implemented. The game is perfect. The 2D20 system is perfect. It's just a setting. Unless you know a bit about Trek, it's hard to play Trek. And folks who have watched our videos will see that the initial videos, there are some rough spots. There is some dead air. There is some amount of where players are trying to gauge what can I say, what can I not say. And as a GM, I've tried to be very inclusive. I've tried to pause the game and say, if you don't know something, ask me, I'll explain to you, and then we can carry on.
Yeah.
But still, as a player, sometimes I feel like I don't want to break the rhythm, right? I don't want to stop the game by asking, what does a tricorder mean, or what does a phaser mean, right? Or who are the Romulans? Or you need to have some Trek knowledge.
Yeah.
That being said, I would say if you want to try a 2D20 system firsthand, I would say go for Conan first, unless you know Trek some amount. Your players know Trek some amount.
My answer was that although it's 2D20 in both systems, the actual game itself is focused on what setting that it's set up for, right? So I don't think that one or the other is better. I think that it's just they're really focused in on the setting that they're running. Like, I don't think that there needs to be 20 skills like there are in Conan in Star Trek.
Oh,
right?
sure. Oh, yeah.
For instance.
Yeah. I'm not saying one is better than the other. Don't get me wrong. It's like knowing yourself as a GM or knowing yourself as a player. What setting are you most comfortable with, right? Now, while the two games are 2D20 systems, they are not exactly the same. Right. The way Doom is generated, the way Doom is maintained versus threat versus momentum, in which scenarios momentum is generated versus not, it's very different between the two, right? Even the way you generate them, even the way, like, one has something called tasks, one has something else. So it's not really it's not one to one. But if you want to play a 2D20 system and you're really excited about it, think about yourself and your players. If you guys are comfortable with Trek, play Trek. If you guys are comfortable with like fantasy and you know Conan, play Conan. If you guys know neither but are comfortable with fantasy, at least play Conan, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that much about Conan, really. I was just like, well, this is fantasy. I can do fantasy. No problem.
Exactly. And then you learn, right? Read the book,
Yeah.
and it's fantastic to read the book. Even if you don't play the game, just read the book. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure Infinity and Mutant Chronicles are very similar too. If you're into, I think Infinity is a little bit like Cyberpunk. I'm not really sure, but so something like that. If you're into that, do that. If you're into kind of a 40K ish type of setting, do Mutant Chronicles. So, I mean, there's options, and they're coming out with John Carter too, right? So
yes, they're coming out with John Carter too. Exactly.
John Carter. I know Darren backed it on Kickstarter, but I did not because I don't have any interest in John Carter.
John Carter.
Yeah, so I didn't. But yeah, so I think that's 2D20. I think we beat that a little bit to death.
Yeah.
So let's talk about one thing that you mentioned was percentile-based systems. So D100. So the big D100 game that we play is versions of Warhammer. As we know, the Fantasy Flight game versions of Warhammer are all D100. So we're talking about we've played 2E for Fantasy. That was Ghost's first campaign he ran. Then he's run, I've run Dark Heresy. He's running Rogue Trader. Other D100 systems that I know are going on the site is Yhander is D100. What else? Call of Cthulhu's D100.
D100, yes.
So Harnmaster's D100. Yeah, so there's been a lot of D1. There are a lot of D100 systems. Mithras is D100.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see. But yeah. So that's RuneQuest 6th edition ish, essentially. But so Mithras is D100. So give me your perspective on D100 systems and why you don't like them, or what do you think about them in general?
I think the D100 system for me, the issue is is the how do you say? Hey, Mitras.
And so just everybody gets some idea of a D100 system. So
Is the how do you say, the spread across which you can fail, right? And I'm not against
but
failure.
isn't it just a percentage?
Agreed.
Doesn't it not matter that it's D100 necessarily? Does it matter that what your skill is in a D100 system?
Well,
Isn't that what it really matters?
well, okay. So agreed that you should be smart enough to roll the skills that you're really good at, right?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, so for instance, if you're playing D&D
Mm-hmm.
and you have let's say you have a 10 in or let's say you have say you have a 10 in something.
Yeah.
A 10 in wisdom, and you're
Yeah.
rolling against wisdom.
Yeah.
But you have a 50% chance of succeeding.
Sure. No, I agree.
So if you have a 50 in a D100 system, you still have a 50% chance of succeeding.
Sure.
So it doesn't matter that there's more numbers in between. To me, it's that you don't start with 50%. You usually start with 25%. And in a D&D game, you'd be rolling against a 5. Well, that never happens.
That never happens. True.
Right.
Absolutely. Now, but I don't know, like, how to say this scientifically or rationally, but what I have observed is that when you roll a d20, whether it's on Roll20 or if it's in real life, you generally, for some reason, I don't know why, you tend to at least roll decently, 8 and above, 9 and above, 10 and above every time you roll. It's very rare you roll 2s and 3s and 4s on a d20, right? But now when you're rolling a d100, I don't understand this. You always roll high. It's almost like when you play a game, when you're supposed to roll low, you roll high. When you're supposed to roll high, you roll low, right? My issue with D100, like if you ignore all that, all the junk and the mumbo jumbo around rolling dice, is the tendency to whiff is way higher in a D100 system than in a non-D100 system.
But the question is, why is that?
I don't know. I really don't get it. Why? Because so let me put this. We've been mainly playing on Roll20. We have not been rolling actual dice. So people who have been rolling actual dice may have a different opinion. But on Roll20, I've observed that I whiff more often than not. And a lot of people playing with me whiff more often than not.
Well, my opinion is quite based in math, and it's because your skills, at least in Warhammer, both versions of Warhammer, start off terrible. You start off like with 20s to 50, maybe if you're lucky, but normally to about 40. So 20 to 40 is probably your range.
So let me put it this way.
So you're going to miss more than you're going to hit.
Sure. Now, when you miss in role playing, when I mean role playing is when you're conversing. You're trying to convince a guard to let you through. You're trying to convince the innkeeper to give you a room. At most, it leads to something fun. You fumble, and if the GM is skilled enough, he comes back with a retort that makes everybody laugh, and you have a memorable moment, right? Because it's all words at the end of the day. The issue is combat. Now, combat, when you're playing combat, if you whiff, and you whiff, and you whiff,
slows the game down.
It slows the game down. And it's not just you as a player whiffing. Even the GM is whiffing. Even his guys, even the NPCs are whiffing. So pretty much you're just swinging balloons in the air at that moment for the next 1 hour, right? Which is kind of retarded because you're not going anywhere with it, right? And then it slows the game down. Because if you whiff in conversation, the conversation ends and you try a different tact or you leave the room. That's it. But you're in combat. The next 1 hour, you need to get to that door, or you need to get to the hangar, or you need to defeat this guy, or you're stuck in eternity fighting this guy with balloons.
Yeah. So for me, really, and I'm taking this from a Warhammer perspective because I know it okay. It really assumes that you're going to know all these little niche actions you can do. Like
yes.
Full auto, semi-auto burst, and ranges are very important. Are you in short range? Are you in medium range? Are you in long range? And then increases like your roll, right?
Yeah.
And so it really kind of expects you to kind of add that all in.
Correct.
And then, so say you have 40 in agility, and you're rolling your ballistic skill, not agility, and you have 40, and then you add 20 or 30, whatever short range is. Then now it's 70%. Now you have a good shot of hitting.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So which means that depending on the way the layout is, the map layout is, you might have to run a lot before you even shoot a shot. Yeah. Right? Before you even shoot your gun, or you swing your power sword, or you do whatever, you might have to run maybe 4 rounds, 5 rounds just to get in close range, right? Which is cool. But again, I guess it's just me and combat. And me and combat plus a D100 system, it just becomes a recipe for me kind of getting very frustrated. It's got nothing to do with the game. A lot of other people like it. It's just my personal angst against it.
Yeah, I don't like anything that extends combat needlessly.
Yeah,
I'm not. I like combat for the most part, but if it makes it a chore, and then it's not doing what it should.
Exactly, because if you can set up a schema or some sort of like an algo or a technique that's saying, okay, I'm going to run, parry, hit, right? Or hit, run, hit, parry, run, something like that. Or I'm going to do my right? I'm going to generate all of that, and then I'm going to hit. Or I'm going to go in this order. I'm going to go first, then you're going to go, then he's going to go. Sure. That's all cool. That's nice because it kind of gets you thinking, and it's not like stagnant. But if every move for every turn you have to like think through 6 steps, I mean, we all say, hey, as a player, pay attention when it's your turn, or when you're like the second in line to go next, have your strategy ready and then play. But it's really not. Even though a lot of players on BNB have played a lot and pay attention to the game, it's just human to get distracted and zone out sometimes, right? And you're like, oh, it's my turn. Ah, shit. Okay, I want to do this. Okay, let me calculate and come back to you, right? So in those scenarios, right?
Yeah, and my guy in Rogue Trader will probably kill us all. So we'll probably play the game like 2 sessions, kill us all. I'm playing for people who know Navigator. I'm playing, or know Rogue Trader. I'm playing the Navigator. So, and Lidless Stare is one of my shticks. So,
but yes, Rogue Trader is coming, and we are all excited for Rogue Trader. It's GM by Ghost, who is the resident Warhammer nerd. He kind of almost gets a chub every time somebody says Warhammer. So
him and Doc's the same way for fantasy.
Yeah.
Because Cubicle 7's releasing 4th edition Warhammer, which is a D100 system. I'm pretty sure. Now, so Elysi's Spiel, which is the company that does the Dark Eye, they are doing the 40K side. It's called Wrath and Glory, and it is not D100.
Oh, okay.
It is not. It is a dice pool.
Okay.
I think it's a D6 dice pool. So that'd be interesting.
Something similar to FFG then.
Something similar to like
the Western games.
No, is it, that's not a pool though. That's just that's not a roll keep, right? That's just.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Then something similar to your
A Song of Ice and Fire.
Song of Ice and Fire, yes.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know how exactly. There are things out there that talk about it, but I don't know what they are. I haven't looked in that much detail. I've been busy doing other things.
Busy building games. Folks who are watching, Tet is going to release 6 games in the next 6 weeks.
No. But Bandit All Hope is very close to being done. I just need to add the initiative macro that I forgot to do. So usually I would do a template and then spread that template everywhere, but I forgot the initiative macro on the template, so I have to go through everything that I need to add it to. So it's like all the NPCs, all the bestiary, all the PCs. Shit. So yeah, that sucks.
That hurts.
Yeah, that hurts. So that because I did all my testing pretty quickly, and I was like, oh fuck, I'm doing real good. I didn't mess anything up. Dynamic lighting's all working correctly. I check it all, and then I'm like, oh man, I forgot initiative. I'm so used to like Conan now, where initiative you don't roll for
You
initiative.
don't really, yeah, it's true.
I love that actually. I love it.
One side goes and the other side goes, and then that's true. Actually, that's the other thing. That's going to be interesting. We need to have one more TED talk about initiative after playing AAH. For example, Stars Without Number, which is based on OSR, they have initiative, and
Yeah.
I have actually, if I remember correctly, have not initiated initiative. I've said you guys go first, then the the rest of them go, because personally, I'll tell you why. Because you're playing Roll20. If Roll20, anybody in Roll20 is watching this, it would be cool to be able to set up the initiative table beforehand. I've read many a post because some time ago when I was playing D&D, D&D has this problem with initiative, right? You're role-playing combat. Oh, let's spend the next 5 minutes.
Role play in D&D? I didn't know that. Okay.
But when you get to combat, let's roll initiative, and if you have 10 NPCs, 5 PCs, 15 total, you're spending the next maybe 5 minutes getting all of that done, right? A lot of people have workarounds like saying, hey, let's everybody roll the initiative at the beginning of the session, and the DM just enters it, and that's how it goes throughout, right? But yes,
then he still has to roll for whatever.
Exactly. But the thing is, the DM knows who the NPCs are based on which screen you are on, right? Now, if Roll20 had pre-filled, or we were able to pre-fill the initiative table for each screen before you started the game, right? Like this. When we start a game, we're just chit-chatting. We're not like actually rolling, right? I say, hey, all of you, roll me your initiative rolls. These will be initiative rolls throughout this session, right? Give me the next 5 minutes as I quickly type this in on my different screens that you possibly could have combat. Now, when you get to the screen, combat just rolls because the initiative order is set. If we were playing in real life, I would ask you to roll those dice. I have a cheat sheet. I mark down all the numbers. I know who my NPCs are on which screen. I mark it all down. As soon as you get to the screen, we start combat. There is no initiative roll because your first initiative rolls have gone through all, right?
Yeah.
It works in real life, not so much on Roll20 because Roll20 doesn't have that. Like, you can't set initiative tables per screen or pre-roll it.
Yeah. So here's the kind of thing so when I did play-by-post a lot, you would have trouble with initiative too, and the problem with that is a little different. The problem with that is you don't want somebody to be like logging in to post, and they can't post because it's not their turn in initiative. Combat on play-by-post takes too damn long anyway, and if you slow it down by that, it just so eventually after years of just dealing with it, I just said, screw it. I'm going to do what I called then block initiative, which is essentially what Shadows of the Demon Lord and Conan and Star Trek do.
Mm-hmm.
Just Shadow of the Demon Lord and 2D20 are like, you go first no matter what.
Yeah.
I would say I would do it a couple ways. Either I'd have everybody roll initiative and then I would average it, or I just have the person with the best roll for initiative roll it and then do the best for whoever they're fighting, and then just
and then go from there. Yes, yeah, because these individual initiative rolls just take way damn long, right? And then it's one more thing you have to keep track of while you're playing combat, because you're like, oh, who goes next? Oh, it's interleaved, and sure, it adds some amount of randomness to the combat, but the initial setup just breaks the flow, and I care more about the flow than combat tactics personally.
Yeah.
So,
and maybe we'll do that eventually in AAH. We'll see how it works. I want to kind of do it that way at first, rules as written, but eventually I might just say this is just worthless and not giving us anything. So let's just do some sort of block initiative. Who's got the highest reflexes, roll for initiative.
Exactly. Because kind of, if you're thinking role play wise, if somebody's got the highest reflexes or the highest what do you call, like something like the ability to observe or know your surroundings.
Yeah.
They would observe the threat before the rest of their group would.
Be like, hey,
Somebody's up the stairs or somebody's around the corner, right? And it's a matter of them versus whoever's best on the other side. That's about it, right? So, but anyway, let's discuss
yep.
stuff that's coming up in July and August.
Okay. So July, I believe. Let's just start with the things that have been there for a while. So Conan, still will be going through July and probably August too.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had 7 sessions of Conan.
Mm-hmm.
They're on day 13 of the month. And the way I have that game set up is that basically there are plots that happen on different days, and they've almost done none of them. They've pretty much done none of them. They've just been doing what they want to do, and that's fine. I mean,
it's gonna come to bite them in the ass later.
Yeah, maybe.
I hope it does.
So, yeah. So there's that game. They might carouse even soon. So if they carouse, they'll miss like 7 more days of the month. But then there's D&D still going. Demi's game. I don't know if he's planning on running all those games. So I'm not 100% sure about that. But
is Yhander?
Having trouble getting it scheduled, unfortunately. I think
but it looks like it's running on the weekends now, so hopefully it gets somewhere.
Yeah, I think it just depends. I think they're waiting for one player particularly that's doesn't have that much availability. So there's that. What else? That Mutants and Masterminds 3rd edition. There will be at least one session of that. It's going to be a Shadows of the Demon Lord session as well. I'm going to keep going with that.
2 new possible campaigns: Mutant Year Zero by Ian and Dark Ages by Matihi.
That's right. Yep. So that's good, especially Matihi, right? New GM, fairly new to the group, 3 months, 4 months maybe. Ian hasn't run anything since January, so it'd be good to get him running stuff again. Doc is going to run Shadowrun. I don't know when it'll get run, but he's got that. Maybe now that he's got Call of Cthulhu under his belt, he's a little bit more comfortable with Roll20 and start pumping some stuff out.
Yeah.
I think Rogue Trader
is supposed to start sometime, and part of this is because of me, because the first 3 weeks of July I'm indisposed. But as soon as I'm back, we pretty much are ready to go with a lot of games. AH, Road Trader.
Yep.
Yeah. And what else?
I don't have the thing up right now, but so Star Trek and Tor both ended.
Yep.
So I know they're both going to be on hiatus for probably Trek for quite a while.
Yeah.
Probably till the winter time, you'd say.
Winter time, yes, because between now and winter time, I want to run Stars Without Number, which had, I believe, 4 sessions of a prelude. There's one last session, and then we enter the main campaign. There are 6 players. I know Tet doesn't like too many players, and I agree with many of his reasons behind it. But there's something I want to try with Swan, which is there are some interesting characters in it. Swan has a doctor. There is a pimp played by Ian, and then there's Tet himself, Ghost, Bo. There are 3 or 4. How do you call them? Like grunts, right? Like Bo is a smooth talker and a smuggler. Ghost is a flyer. Tet is pretty much a handyman with anything mechanical or computers, and Sim is basically the muscle, right? Now, while these guys can get things done, it's mainly the doc and the pimp who can actually get more missions, more intrigue, So that's what I want to try, where maybe all 6 can't play, but there's something one of them did that lets the other 4 play, right? Because Swan has a very vibrant social aspect to it, which I want to explore. So yeah, and actually, personally, and I know I've been kind of going back and forth with Tet on this, is I find sci-fi games more uh, much more easier to play, just because I can use technology to kind of shortcut a lot of things, right? Which you cannot do in fantasy because the technology just doesn't exist. Oh, you guys are not in contact. Or maybe you have a comm badge. Or maybe you can hack a satellite and get in touch with somebody else, right? You want to get somewhere between systems, fly the ship. That's it, right? Because it just makes that housekeeping a little easier, allowing me to build stories and systems faster, right? That's just, again, my personal opinion. But yes, because of Swan, I believe Trek will only start in winter. And Trek will follow kind of what DS9 is doing, because I really, really have loved DS9, watching DS9. It's going to be the Dominion War. And I want to try something new with that. When it comes out, it'll be more things like infiltration, espionage, where Starfleet kind of sheds its mantle of humanitarianism, wanting to do good. Because
it's time for some Nobunaga.
Yes, exactly. It's time for the Daito to come out and asses to be kicked and heads to be rolled. So looking forward to that sometime in winter.
Let's see what else. Let me look at our channels here. Yeah. So Abandon All Hope's a mini campaign for me. So it's a 50 to 60 page adventure. So I don't know how long it's going to take. Hopefully less than 6 sessions. I really don't know. The stuff I've done to it has made it longer too, because I've added stuff to it and changed things here and there and made stuff more interesting, made things more difficult in certain areas.
And then we as players asked for prelude so that we could establish ourselves as convicts within that ship, which I think, which would mean more sessions anyways.
Yeah, I added all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a prelude, a coming together prelude. So
Nice.
yeah, so there's that. That's going to get started at the end of July, and we'll see how quick I want to. So another thing I kind of wanted to do with that game, just to go back to it again, is kind of run it fairly quickly and end it fairly quickly. As not necessarily session count. I mean, that's one thing, but really time, like real time, like a couple of weeks. So because one thing I find is, like, especially with us, we get something gets pushed back and have trouble scheduling, so you're doing one session every 2 weeks, and it's like So I mean, this is not a group, because we're all, well, not all, but a lot of us are in our 30s or early 40s, and so it's like, well, I can't play this game every week, for whatever reason. Maybe it's because you're playing other games. I mean, that's very possible, right? I'm not saying it's not, but it's hard to say. It's definitely hard to say, on this day, on this time, we'll play. I can't do that. No, I just can't. I just can't do it. I can't say every Monday at 8 I'll play. So I mean, I could probably say every week I could play, but I couldn't say the same day. But
and I believe a part of it, for the folks who are watching, is that we've come to the realization, at least in BNB, and this is by no means boasting or anything of that sort. It is what we have seen, is that this group really is into role playing. Not saying other groups are not, but this group is. And because of the fact that we are into role playing, many games were defined as one shots, which is supposed to finish in one session. Practically, there have been no games that was said to be one shots that were finished within a session. And I believe that's where mini campaigns, at least the way we define them, has evolved from, is because the fact that we said, "Hey, we'll play this tonight. There's no game scheduled. We're kind of free. Let's do something. Let's have some fun," right? But then everybody gets into the character. Everybody starts talking. The GM lets it roll. The next thing you know, a couple of hours have passed, and story wise, waypoints wise, we have not gone much further than we should have, right? Great entertainment. Anybody who's watching it should enjoy it. The people who are playing it are definitely enjoying it. But again, waypoints wise, we have not gone forward. So then becomes, oh, let's play it again 3 weeks out. Oh, we can't play this because it's a one shot. The campaign's schedule. Let's play it a month later, a month and a half later. By which time everybody's forgotten what the hell they did in that session. So one thing in BNB now we realized is, while the adventure or what the GM has developed might look like a one shot, pretty much nothing is a one shot. It's at least 2 games or 3, if not 4, 5, or 6. The Call of Cthulhu game, as written, it's a 15-page game, should have been done in one or 2 sessions. It took us 4 sessions. Not because people are slacking or like, just dilly-dallying. No, there was heavy RP going into it, and that's why mini campaigns now, right? We know going in that this game is not going to be done in 1 session. It might take 4 or 5. If you're going to start playing it, let's agree to the fact that we're going to meet 4 or 5 times over the next month at least, right? If not, then I will not join the game. Somebody else will join the game, something like that. So that's something we have learned over time.
Yeah, it really is. I think the games that, so if I sit there and I have a real hard time with this now, a real hard time, like especially these episodic games, because they're supposed to be self-contained. The sessions are supposed to be self-contained if they can be, right? Because it's their episodic.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee I'm going to have the same players next time.
Correct.
I might have some of the same players, so I don't want to like lock them into that and have to like continue. No, you don't want to do that. So it's like that's the problem, right? And so in one shots, it's like, okay, you can conceive of this story arc, and this story arc continues, and then you're like, it's 4 hours. I can't, or it's you don't want to play for 4 hours, right? It's too much.
And it's because of the people in BNB. Again, this is not a boast. You guys can see it from the videos we post. You guys can come and join us on Discord and you can see it. The people who play the games are so into it, who role play so well. They drive the story forward. The GM most times is just taking a seat back. He is not saying a word, or she is not going to be saying a word. You can watch the videos. The GM is pretty much saying nothing. There might be 15 minutes of dialogue between 2 or 3 players. As a GM, you're not going to stop it, right? And it might be RP heavy in that moment. It might be like discussing, fighting, arguing, cajoling, convincing, intimidating each other or the NPC into doing something. But you can't just push the story forward if the players are into it, right? Because even though it might be written out, if the players are not going to follow that particular pattern, that doesn't mean you have to like, oh no, get back. You can't do that. I mean, our GMs on BNB don't do that, so you can't expect something to finish in 3 or 4 hours. It's just not possible.
Yeah, it's and we do sometimes, but it's like I do with my episodic campaigns. But I really, when I build them, I do it knowing that I can't put much into it. Like as far as content, like I got it has to be pretty simple. Because if you overdo it, then you're going to be playing either for 4 hours, or you're going to, and you're still probably pushing.
Yep.
And you're still pushing. You put a combat in there.
Yeah.
That's all over. I mean, that's half your session.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. So this, yeah. That and also, I feel you don't learn enough about the system or setting typically in one session.
Yeah.
You gotta kind of, and I don't think it's as interesting. It's just not as interesting. Yeah, it's fun, whatever, but it's just still not as interesting to have some kind of longevity with a character, with a plot, whatever.
Yeah, because there's different aspects, right? You're trying to learn the system, but you're also trying to grow your character as you're role playing them. So if you're not trying to do that, then sure, you can finish it in 2 and 3 hours and just roll the dice, not give a shit, and like just keep moving the story forward. But if you're really into your character, thinking all the time as a player, what would he or she do? um, how would they react to this particular role or this particular event or this particular sound? It takes time, right?
Yeah, it
But
does.
then the result is something truly magnificent, which is what we are all in it for. So anybody who's watching and on the fence about role playing, come check us out on BNB. Right, we are a friendly folk. We do have rules. We do have requirements. While it might seem onerous, that wait, are we not just playing games and trying to have fun? Yes, we're playing games and trying to have fun, but this is a social setting, right? You're trying to get a group of people who are trying to get their calendars and their schedules aligned to be present at a particular time online. So in order to be respectful for everyone around, we have rules and we have requirements. That's what. But then once you do meet those rules and requirements, you realize that, hey, everybody's meeting them, and everybody's, because they're meeting them, they're putting all their 100% into it. Nobody's just like meh, meh, because we don't want meh, because meh doesn't work. If you're just here for meh, you might as well just go to a bar, dude. Just go hang out, go have a beer, and relax, watch TV, watch Netflix.
Netflix and chill.
Netflix and chill, exactly. Right. But if you are here to role play um, and grow it as a skill, because it affects, right? Like I think a couple of days back I was telling Tet like how my vocabulary has increased. I read more than watch TV. I build more, right? You're always online looking for new stories, new images, new tokens. Like you just creatively, you're just growing. Even if it just looks like a game to the outside world, it's still growing, right? You're still trying to put up something that is artistic, tasteful, meaningful for a group of friends that are trying to have fun. So
Yeah,
that's what
it is a labor of love. It really
yeah.
is. It's the amount of work that a GM puts into their games on this server is quite incredible. I mean, I can tell you personally firsthand how much I put into some of these games, and people would be like, "What, are you fucking crazy?" But I don't want to half-ass anything. You know, that's just not my personality in general, but especially something that I really enjoy. I wouldn't enjoy it if I thought things were half-assed. And I will call out bullshit in an instant if I think something's half-assed done
Mhm.
on our server, and we have had that. We have
Yes.
had GMs that have kind of half-assed things, and they're no longer GMs
Mhm.
anymore here. They're no
Because
longer players on
it's
this.
not fair, right? Because if your players who join you at the table are not half-assing their characters, then you as a GM have no reason to half-ass what you're building for them, right? Um, and that doesn't mean that you have to build an extremely intricate world, right? You can still put some effort into it. It can just be slides, 4 slides, right?
Yeah.
And but meaningful tokens, meaningful slides. And it's not like we expect like gold standard, you know YouTube, launch worthy content. It's just that it's very clear when a GM has put in effort versus when a GM has not put in effort.
Hmm.
Right?
If you have three side slides for your entire game and no tokens, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, because you're playing Roll20, right? It might work if you're playing real life, sure. And, each situation is different. Roll20 is it's an online medium. Your players are sitting maybe on their couches, on their beds, in a busy room, and they're trying to immerse themselves into something that they need to look at. So you need to be aware of it and give them something that they can immerse themselves in. But if you're playing live with a group of friends in a room, it's very different. You can read each other's body language, their words, their facial expressions and tics. You have all of that context, but while playing online, you do not. So all this theater of mind bullshit doesn't really work online, right?
Do you think theater of mind is lazy GMing?
I do with the caveat that unless the GM has extremely good vocabulary and extremely talented at describing the surroundings for his players, allowing his voice and his language to help them immerse. Unless you have all of those skills, theater of mind is just lazy GMing. You're using something that is actually technically very difficult to give you a pass at not putting in any effort. That's basically the way I look at it, right? I personally do not have the vocabulary or the language skills to pull my players in with my words all the time. So I use imagery to help me with that. Fine, but I put the effort into the imagery. I spend hours upon hours scouring Google images and everything else to find an image that will pull them in, that makes sense to what I'm trying to portray. If I had the language, sure, I would use that more because it's easy to come up with language quickly, to write it down, do whatever, right? But unless you have that, or unless you don't try to bullshit your way saying I'm trying to do theater of mind. Put in the effort, put the tokens, put the image, let the people play, get immersed in, right?
Yeah, I don't think everything has to be like a top-down map and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
But
For example, Swan and Trek were not top-down maps, right? I've actually personally found it very liberating to show them a screen, let their imagination play, and say, don't worry so much about tactical placement. Use the tactics to figure out what attacks, what actions, what tasks you're going to do. Think on those lines, but don't think. Again, I'm not trying to belittle D&D, but don't think I need to move 15 feet diagonally, then come across him and flank him and do this. Forget that bullshit. What are you going to do? How are you going to affect? You're talented enough to get there to do that. Keep it rolling, keep it moving fast. Think on
Mhm.
those lines, right? Okay, I'm going to do this, sweeping attack. Roll the dice, explain it, let's move on. You do the attack. Even if you're not close enough, you get to him close enough, right?
Yeah,
Um, so
I think that is a real benefit of like Tor.
yeah. Oof, yeah. Tor. We could talk hours and hours about Tor.
Yeah, it's a good system.
It's
It
a very
really
good
is,
system.
particularly for the setting it's portraying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one system I've come across where the system enhances the role play. I will admit, and not admit, I will agree with what Ted has told me multiple times, that it is a system that enhances role play quite a bit.
I think any system can enhance roleplay. It just depends on the situation. Like let's even 40K, right? If Newt did not do those things that he did, based on what the system, it was all system generated.
Sure, I agree, but I would say
It would be
predominantly.
so much different.
Sure, agreed. But Tor runs it. I would say Tor does it more often.
Oh, Tor is in the
Yeah,
system in the setting is so ingrained that
yeah.
it's a perfect meld of system and theme. It really is.
But yes, I do agree. And those systems are joy to play when it allows you to, when it enhances your role play, when it allows you to push that. Yeah, it is fun. Especially if you take the other way, you run a D100 system and look forward to the failures and role play the failures. It's a lot of fun, as done by
It's
Samuel in the Call of Cthulhu series.
right. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I just want to fail. I want to
I
go.
just want to fail. It makes it so easy to role play my madness and my sadness and my fear. So let's do this.
Yeah,
Whiff, please whiff.
that's for you.
Cool.
See.
So yeah, I think that's all we have for July. August is going to be fun. I think. Yes, some couple of things that are being worked on. One game is Paladin, um, which Darren and myself will be co-GMing. We're going to try something new, something that I believe all of us have thought at one time or the other. Where, as a GM, sometimes you have to portray multiple NPCs in a session or in a scene, and it can be very tiring or almost schizophrenic if you're going to be like, one guy is a mad person, one guy is a happy person, one guy is monotonous, right? and a GM trying to voice all the three to allow the players to immerse themselves can be pretty hard. What we're trying to do with Paladin is it's definitely going to have a combat scene, but it's also very heavy into social, especially I believe, from what I've read, the court aspect, right? Because you'll be present in courts, in a king's court, a duke's court, an earl's court, and you have to talk well. You have to portray an image.
And
So
the people who don't know what Paladin is based very heavily on Pendragon role playing game, and it's instead of King Arthur, it's Charlemagne.
there you go. So being able to voice many voices in a court with two GMs, while one is really running it, the other is helping and doing the voices or the narration. That's something we're trying out, and hopefully it succeeds and allows the player to immerse themselves more. And then if that works, then we could try that in more other games. The other game that Tet and me have been kind of going back and forth on is Dune. We are very excited to play Dune. We're just trying to figure out the system. I know there's a Dune system out there, and it has some of its own deficiencies. So we're trying to figure out how we can come up with something that does justice to the theme, and still allows it to play it. Something, as Ted puts it, Song of Ice and Fire in space. So
yeah. The system is called Chronicles of the Imperium, but it's an old system. Not that that's a bad thing, but didn't see much. I think only like 3,000 books were printed. Period. The history behind it, I guess, is the company who did it got bought by Wizards of the had TSR at the time probably, and TSR wanted to make it a D20 game, and then never did, and so it just
sat there.
There.
So we are discussing, maybe we can come up with maybe we can use an existing system and run Dune on it. One of the systems we're thinking about is, again, Stars Without Numbers, or Ian pointed out there is M space or Mitra space. So basically, we need a system that where the social aspect, the house building aspect is concrete and solid. Mitra space has something called circles. Stars Without Number has something called factions. Both of these seem promising. We just need to spend some time researching it and figuring out which one works.
I'm really looking forward to it. It's something that I've wanted to play for a while.
And Tet has been gracious enough to agree to me being the GM, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. There's some games that I want to run more than I want to play, and then there's some games I want to play more than I want to play Dune. So, I mean, I could run it, but I mean, and that would be fun, but I'd rather just play it.
No, and I agree.
And that usually comes from having like a character concept that you kind of want to explore. And
the same thing which you and me discussed on Trek, where I want to play an engineer scientist in Trek, which you can GM, maybe a mini series in the mini campaign in the future.
Yep. What else?
That's it.
There are a couple other campaigns coming, potentially, that are just I'm going to run Boot Hill, as well, and that'll be in September or August. So Boot Hill is a Western game, so we get to be bank robbers.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah, and I guess that system's very deadly, so it might not last that long. So.
It would be that session.
Yeah, Symbaroum, Mithras.
Yeah. That's still under development and discussion. So, and I think that's going to be interesting. Maybe that's something that after experiencing it, we can talk in the next TED Talk, is after AAH and maybe Boot Hill, character deaths, right? Character deaths that are expected in a system, right? Versus
I expect death in AAH.
Yes. So
the system is very simplistic. It's not that difficult, but man, you look at just the shit that can happen just by these manifestations. If like demons, or when you fight one, it's not easy. So.
No, that's something. I think this is. It'll be interesting to play a game like that and learn from character deaths. Figure out how to build secondary characters, how a player switches from his primary to the secondary character. There's some technical aspects to it, right? Because many games, they want you to be champions. The GMs expect, I mean, not expect, they try to help you to be champions. But playing some games which are you're going to lose 90% of the time. The 10% of the time you might win or you might live. It's sometimes fun to play those games, and there's something to learn about, right?
Well, I think it could be interesting, and the fact is, like, it helps you role play the situation because you might die. Really, you might. So it's hard to if like one thing I've always, and I know we're kind of bashing on D&D, and I'm not really meaning to necessarily, but in games like D&D, especially like 5th level plus D&D and other games like that, you don't really have that much of. You're not going to die. You're not going to. So why would you be worried about going into a situation that you could be injured? Now, of course, a good role player is going to kind of break that disbelief and role play in that way anyway, but like it's better if you as a player are also concerned that you're going to die.
Yep. And I feel that adds more realism to it, right? It adds more realism to decisions as a player that you make about your character. Overall, I think I look forward to games where death is very easy, because otherwise, what's the point? You're not role playing. You're just playing. You're just playing a game.
Yeah.
You're just moving a token across a map. It's like playing any other board game. There is no effects on the character that you have built, right? Maybe you don't have an attachment to the character after session 1, but if you played the game for 4 sessions and you're attached to the character, when he or she dies or is close to death, there are effects, right? And if you're really invested in the character, there are effects. So how do you go through that? How do you play that? How do you then switch to your backup character? How does the character enter? What do you do? Those are fun things to try, and why not? I mean, the many different aspects of role playing. So,
and we tried to explore a lot of them. So yeah. So to me, everything's an experiment, or it should be. And then you find something that really works well for you, and then you still experiment. So
you play you play your bread and butter, and then you go and try maybe the fig jam sometimes.
You have the apricot
one time. Yeah. So, because the thing is, we play the same thing over and over again. Eventually, you're tired of it. And it's unfair because the system is nice. Why tire of it, right? Just take a break, step away from it, try something different, cleanse your palate, and then come back to something that you love always, right? So
absolutely, yeah. I think it's good to try other things, right? That's why I don't understand people who just play D&D. If you like D&D, that's fine. That's whatever. But do something else too. I mean, God, D&D is definitely not the only thing out there.
And there are many other systems. That allow you to be heroes if that's what you're looking for. That's what you're looking for a release, and you don't want the grit or the doom. Sure, there are many other systems that have that. So, just play more role playing games that allow you to expand. Just make that, which means that when you go back to D&D, if you're a hardcore D&D player, your D&D game will improve. And this is not just about role playing. You can look at this as anything else in life, right? Which is most interesting. I think if you're playing sports, if you're playing the same thing over and over again, right? If you are like into working out at the gym, if you're doing the same exercise over and over again, the gains eventually become minimal, because your body eventually plateaus, right? It's when you change things up, you try different things, you push your body in different ways, you push your mind in different ways. That's when you just get better.
Yep, absolutely. And I think we're up to 36 different systems.
Yep.
And we'll probably add 2 or 3 this month. So, and that's, that's interesting. Yeah, it's more. I probably own these mini campaigns that probably be a different system setting every time for me. I don't think I'll revisit anything as mini campaign. Maybe I'll take one of those mini campaigns and turn them into something longer.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
I could do that.
And it's because there are so many publishers out there who are releasing new content on a daily basis, right? On a monthly basis almost. And all this is good. I mean, it's like, I mean, no publisher is, small or big. They have put work into it, they have put their love into it. It kind of makes sense also to play it and test it out, see what it's all about, right? It might sound similar, but I don't think it's similar. Otherwise, they would not have published it. Others, people would not have backed it. People would not have shown interest. These things don't happen in vacuum, right?
Yeah, I've got like I think 5 games sitting there in Kickstarter. I'm just waiting for. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of stuff, and I've purchased a lot of things and looked at a lot of things lately, and it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll get to that in 2022 when when I'm done with all this other stuff. So
And this is to the folks who are watching, who are still watching. If you have systems that we potentially have not played, this would be a group to come and play it with, because this is a group who's not stuck or kind of indoctrinated to play one system over the other. We play pretty much any and every system. We've even played Maids, 2 games of Maids. So we've done it all, and we look forward to playing more systems. So if you're a GM out there, join us, explain your system to us, play some few games with us so we can get to know you. Then maybe you can run your game with us, and we would be more than happy to play it. So, BNB is not just about trying to get players, it's trying to get people, friends who like role playing and all aspects of role playing. So
yeah, and we just saw that like Matihi now
yeah,
is going to run Dark Ages, which is a game I've wanted to play for a long time too. And it's like, well, okay, now we have somebody to do that, and that's good. Probably, I mean, that's probably going to be her niche, right? These World of Darkness type games, and that's fine.
It's fine.
So
you're okay. You're more than welcome to have your own niches. Maybe your niche is something we've never come across, or we want to come across, but nobody's got the time or the inclination to play it, and you're the one we've been looking for. So come join us.
Yeah, and that being said, don't come and just say I'm going to play. Let me think of an example off the top of my head, like
Shadow of the Demon Lord. I only play Shadow of the Demon Lord.
I only play Shadow of the Demon. Don't do that. Don't do that. We don't want that either. Or any system. We don't want people to just come and play one system, or even just 2 systems. I understand that there's some people have a limited amount of time to do everything, right? I get that. That's not a problem. Or I get that you might just not like doing this over here, right? And that's okay. But at least try other things and do some other things. Don't just pigeonhole yourself to one thing or maybe 2 things. Try to experience as much as you can. I'm not going to play D&D, right? But I play everything else. So, so it's like that. Or I'm not going to play Maids, but Xeipher played Maids.
I played Maids. So that's the thing. But the main thing is try it, right? And then move on. If it works, works. If it doesn't work, we learn something and you move on, right? So that's the thing. You just come with an open mind. Come with an open mind. Come with the idea to have fun, and you'll be welcomed, whoever you are.
Yep. Yeah. I guess one last topic we'll hit, and then we can stop. And this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and it's essentially basically how you build games. And kind of this was something I kind of did for the first time with Conan, right? Which is basically sandbox or not, that's really not that important. It's that I built pretty much almost everything that I could foresee well beforehand. And I keep mentioning this over and over, and it kind of sounds like I'm either patting myself on the back or whatever, but I'm not really. It's just I see what it's done for me is in the past what I would do is I have a session to run. I spend X amount of hours prepping for that session, and then I run the session. Okay, every 2 weeks or week, however often I'm running it. Now, with Conan specifically, I spend a half an hour, 15 minutes getting ready for a session because I've done everything. This
Can you
allows
just
me to do other things.
So explain something when you mean everything. What have you done with the mindset that you're talking about Roll20?
Yeah. So I've okay. All the slides that you might need to be on, or not all, but 95% of them are finished. So that's in the context of Conan itself. It's the city of Shashan and the outlying areas, all finished. So this game particularly is a 99% top-down view of everything. So all the maps of the city are done, and this is 32 specific areas of the city, and then I have a regional city map with like bubbles with the numbers, right? So you can say I want to go to bubble number 22, which is the Fox's Den, the gambling hall. Okay, let me take you over there. Okay, you can go there and you can do whatever you're going to do there. So that's all done. All the NPCs that I can conceive of beforehand that I think are important beforehand are done. So that's tokens, that's character builds, etc. And most of them are minions or toughened, so I don't have to like do traits or everything like that. So that's all done. Lighting effects are done. I do lighting effects for all my games. So on the Roll20 aspect, macros are all done, that kind of thing. So Conan's a little different, but all the plots that I perceive for X amount of time in game are done. Now this game is kind of sandboxy, so they kind of went off and did their kind of own thing, and it just kind of went, which is fine, whatever, didn't matter. But so I have a plenty of plots done as well. So with all that being done ahead of time, I don't really have anything to do. I mean, very minor things to do because I'm always reacting to what they do, right? So I always have a little bit to do typically, but not like I don't have to do all that stuff too, right? So I don't have to build the session every time. I just do very small tweaks that they might need at the time. So.
And I want to add this, and I know I've read multiple posts, Reddit posts, blog posts about things like this, and I feel a part of it is, kudos to somebody like Ted to build it up front, but it's also because of BNB is where once players commit on this server to play a game, a GM knows that the players will play, right? It gives a GM the he knows for sure that if he puts in all this effort, the people are going to come to the table. Not like I'm going to put all this effort in 2 sessions. Oh, you know what, man, this is not really working out. I have a flaky reason. I'm going to leave the group, right? So I believe you're right, and I believe I'm going to do the same thing for Swan as well after the preludes are done. And actually, that's what I'm building right now, because you're right. Because once all of that is done, you really have nothing on your head on game day, right? Even if, because sometimes not sometimes, every time you play, it doesn't happen in vacuum. You just had a whole day of work, house, life, whatever, and then you come to the table to play. Maybe the day went really well, maybe the day didn't go really well, and if it didn't go really well, you do not want to build your game while your life is not going so well, right? By building it all up front, you remove all that stress of building the game. You know that everything is ready. I just have to tweak a few slides or move a few tokens around just because some of the NPCs are expected on this slide versus the other slide where I put them, which is exactly the half an hour's work that you're saying, right? Which means zero stress at game time, right? Which is awesome. And it takes a lot of discipline, I will agree, right? It's not easy. It's easy to listen and accept and agree and shake my head or shake your own head to what Ted said, but it takes a lot of discipline to do that, to sit and build a game knowing that maybe everybody's not going to get to this slide, or maybe they're going to get to the slide, maybe I'm going to, right?
I mean, literally, I have 30 some locations in the city, and they maybe went to 4 or 5. Right? And it might seem like wasted work, but I don't see it that way because this game can go on, right? They can do these things still, right? It's just, I mean, they just did something else, right?
Yeah.
So
And that's the thing is that, and this is the other thing I want some of you who are still watching this is the fact that we run mini campaigns or we stop a campaign doesn't mean that the campaign's really stopped. It's an arc, right? Maybe these players who played these characters came to a stop. That doesn't mean 3 months down the line, a whole new set of players won't want to play in the city of Sushan. The city of Sushan, the story of Sushan might have progressed, right? That somebody else can come and join, a group can come and join and play the game. Now Tet doesn't have to build Sushan again, it's already built. You can potentially play another 3 or 4 more campaigns over the span of the next 2-3 years on that same setting, right? And I believe that's the other thing. Maybe there's not enough time to discuss this, but I believe there's this thing of like, oh, campaigns have to be long running and they have to be epic, and it has to span over years and months. No bullshit, dude. I mean, maybe when you were kids, teenagers, if you've been role playing when you were at that age, but as adults who have lives, girlfriends, boyfriends, spouses, bills to pay, work to do, no, fuck no. If you can get like time where you agree to play a game for 3 months, once every week for the next 3 months, I find that a miracle itself.
yeah,
Right. So fuck long going campaigns. They never fucking happen. It's just
to me they just kind of what's the word? I get not bored. That's not right, but just like just a little like wanting to do something else, I guess, is like it's like, okay, I've done this for 20 sessions now. Let's stop for a while. There are campaigns that I've been like, oh man, I didn't really want that to end. That I really wish that kind of would have kept going, and that's based on a lot of things, right?
Sure.
Like I think you know who I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
It's, well, I just want Otto to keep going forever because he's the greatest thing that's ever. Yeah, but
but the idea is like you can still play them as long as you approach the game as something that I don't want. Like if you come to it like, let's see where this goes. That's the attitude. Versus no, this has to run for the next 3 years. Unless if not, then it's not worthwhile playing this bullshit.
yeah,
right?
it's funny. It's funny you say that because it reminds me of like when we first were kind of starting this group, and I would advertise in Roll20, and one guy, I remember this for some reason. He said, games I'm in have to commit to 20 sessions. I can't remember exactly all the specific requirements he had, but something was like 4 times a month, and and I was like, well, you should probably just not join. I was like, and that's insane. I mean, he's like, I really just want to get into the character and just know everything about the character. And I was like, well, yeah, okay, but you don't need 20 sessions to do that. I mean,
and don't let bullshit stop you. You're like, oh, I want to get into the character. Just play the goddamn game, man. You will get into character within 2 sessions. If you know what the fuck you're doing, you get into character within 2 sessions, right? You don't need a freaking epic campaign to get into your character and know your character. And no,
I mean, epic campaign for me is something that lasts 10 sessions. Really, it's like that's a long, pretty long
campaign itself. Yeah.
And when I started running A Song of Ice and Fire on Roll20, they're all mini campaigns, 3 to 5 sessions. Yeah. I think I had one that was 7. I think that was my longest one.
It's short and sweet, and anybody who knows what they're doing will get into character pretty quickly. You don't need long drawn campaigns to. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. But I think at some point it kind of starts to peter if you don't take a break.
Yeah, or unless you have a lot of time on your hands, which most people don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think that matters. I think it's just a kind of a basic attention span kind of thing, and just doing the same thing. especially with our group, right? Because we tend to do different things. So
Yeah,
it's like, well, I'm kind of stuck in this campaign, so I can't do this. And it's like,
correct. Yeah, try
because we only have a limited amount of time to do those things. So if you can play 5 sessions in a month and you're spending 3 of them on something that you're like, well, I've been doing this for 6 months, then
yep.
so
Cool.
yeah, I don't know that I mean, I could talk about this all night.
We could go on.
I probably should sleep at some point.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, folks who are still with us, come check us out on BNB. There should be a link somewhere down on how to find us on Discord. Again, we have a few rules. These rules have helped us maintain the quality of what we put out. And we do care about what we put out. Right? It's not just something that we just like, we get together and shoot the shit. We have fun games, we have serious games. The idea is be tone sensitive. If game is supposed to be fun, play the fun aspect. If the game is supposed to be serious, play the serious aspect. Don't try to mix the two. There's no point. You're fucking it up for everybody else around you. Simple rules surrounding that. That's about it, right? New people who join, we just ask you to play 2 games with us for the first 2 months. The reason we do that is because we would like to get to know each other, right? Because we're spending maybe campaigns, again, 3-4 months, 4 sessions a month, 3 sessions a month, a total of 12 to 15 sessions with each other. You want to know who you're playing with. You want to feel comfortable with them. If you're going to try voices, you're going to try accents, you're going to try being funny, sad, foolish, you want to feel comfortable who you're playing with. And those 2 games for the first 2 months actually help you, right? To know, okay, I like to play with this guy or this girl, and no, I don't like to play with them. They're too much into it, and I don't like that so much. I'm going to step away, right? And that's why we say it, right? So
it also checks your dedication to what you're doing,
yep.
And so that when you join a campaign like Xeipher was saying earlier, you know that person is not going to flake out on you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's helpful, right? You never know for sure, but I mean, if you play at least 2 games for 2 months, then that means you've been on the server for 2 months without either getting kicked off because you're not annoying me. It's not really the way to say it, but you're not doing things that are clearly you're not going to play, right? And we've had some things where it's unfortunate where people come and they're doing really well and they're like, yeah, I can't do this because of whatever reason, right? And they leave, and it's no hard feelings to them for that. That people's got shit, right? I mean, whatever. But at the same time, it didn't screw up somebody's campaign and said, hey, you're a good player, come play in this campaign. Oh, now you have to drop. Now I'm messed up, right? My campaign is somehow hindered because you did that.
Okay.
So that's why we put these rules into place to make sure that that specifically is that you're going to stick around, you're going to do a good job. And a lot of people, it's very easy to tell, honestly. Now, there's been a couple lately that's been kind of surprising that they didn't work out, because typically people who stay are people who come and then they just join games and they play.
Yeah, that's what we've observed. If you come with an open mind, want to just keep playing games, you don't care what you play, you don't care. I know Ted keeps riding my ass on this about not reading the rules, not reading the thing. Personally, I feel if you want to play as many games as you can, you don't have time to read every book out there. You just want to join and play, right? But then again, be respectful to everybody around the table, be respectful to the GM, right? If you don't know something, ask, send a PM or take a step back, and then read the rules in parallel to the game, but join the games, right? A lot of people, the reason I say this is because a lot of people say, oh, I need to read the book, I'll get back to you. Bullshit. You're not going to get back to me. I know for a fact. You're not going to spend the next 7 days reading this book, and no, it's not going to happen. So instead of all of that, just join and learn as you play, because it's a game, right? It's you're not reading a technical manual, or you're not reading War and Peace. It's a game at the end of the day. It's not extremely hard. Just play and you'll get to know what it means as you play along. So if you want to try different game systems, different games, play with a bunch of people who like to have fun, but also are look at it as an art, right? As a hobby, like whether you're learning to play an instrument, or you're learning to paint or sing or dance, you need to put the effort in. The good part of this is you're just sitting on your ass and talking, so it's not as much effort as one would think, um, as opposed to the other hobbies I just spoke about. So yeah, come check us out on BNB, and watch our videos, like them, subscribe, um, and roll some dice, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, on that note, um, the link to our Discord server should be where the main links are on YouTube. So you should be able to just click on that. It'll drop you right into our Discord. If you do that, I ask that do it when you have just a few minutes. Don't just log on and then not be there, right, all day. It just makes me think that you click the link and you're you're not really interested, and I will just remove you. I've done that before. So just have like you don't have to have like 2 hours, but have like 10-15 minutes to say, hey, how are you doing? Blah blah blah. Okay, I need to go to work now, whatever. And then everybody's cool. But just don't just click it and then just walk away. And because I feel like people just click things because there's a button to click sometimes, and they
Because a
don't
lot
have
of
any
us are
intention.
very active on the channel, on our server. So the moment you join, we actually welcome you and say like, "Hi, so and so. How do you find us? What games do you like? What are you looking for? Take a look at the community guidelines." Like the standard responses that we send to you when you join. So if you respond back with saying, "Hey, I'm going to look at it. I'm so and so," it just means you're interested, right? And that is the root of it. If you're interested and show the interest, we would love to have you. If you're here to fucking waste time, there are many other servers maybe that you can go spend your time at, just not BNB. So
Yeah, we're not trying to like act like, I don't know, jerks or anything like that. I mean, that's not the intent. The intent is to not waste your time, not waste our time, and then form this relationship, right? In this relationship where we all are comfortable with each other role playing, and I mean comfortable in the sense that I'm going to like role playing with you, and you're going to like role playing with me, and you're going to like role playing with pretty much everybody on the server to some extent. Now, some people have like preferences who they role play with. That's fine, but I feel that everybody on the server now, I don't have a problem playing with them, right? And that's from just knowing them, and they've been around, and they seem like good people, and they've not done anything to really tick us off, and just follow the community guidelines and did all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, you can either play, 2 times a month or 15 times a month, if you're Ghost. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm not very far behind him, so I don't have much room to talk. But yeah, and we'd love to have you if you want to role play and try to get better at it, like we all are. Yeah, I can't do voices worth of shit, so I'm still working on it. I can do an auto voice, and that's about it. So
Tet would like us to believe that Otto is not Tet in real life, but
I'm not nearly as cool as Otto is. Not nearly as cool. Yeah. I can't weasel people out of their last pair of underwear, right? So yeah, poor Otto. Yeah. So anything else, Xeipher?
No, I think that's about it. Come join us, have some fun. I think that's the main message always.
Yep. Have fun, but do it well, right? So we pride ourselves on trying to be pretty good at this, and trying to always get better and always experiment with what we're doing. And if it's a setting, it's a system, it's a way of doing things. It doesn't matter. we're always looking to try to expand our horizons because that's the only way you can get better at things.
Mhm.
And so, and we do want to be quote unquote good. So that's what we're striving for. And if that's what you would like to strive for and you want to have some fun doing it, come on and join us. Click that Discord link. That's the easiest way to contact any of us. Just so you know, anybody should be able to help you to some extent. Look for the people with the blues or purples more. Those are the GMs or the admins, or the pinks, which is what Xeipher is. He's a pink. So got to keep it moist.
Keep it moist.
Got to keep it moist.
Yeah.
So yeah, come click the Discord link. It's the easiest way to get a hold of us. If not, you can send a message on YouTube. That's probably the second easiest way. And yeah, come on in and just say hey, and we can get you set up with some games. First, there'll be episodic games or one shots or mini campaigns, and then we can get you into more full-fledged stuff after you've been there for 2 months and 4 games, and hopefully play a lot more than that. So from B&B, thanks for watching. This is probably running over an hour now for sure. Easily. Like I say, I could talk about this shit all night. So, yeah, click the link. Come join us. Play some games. Thanks.
Good night, folks.